I'll be talking about rural India, all right, but I'll be talking about rural development. And I'll be talking about primarily CSR, which is the corporate social responsibility. In India, it has now become a law, a mandate. India is the first country in the world which has now mandated CSR as a part of legislation, and all corporates have to follow this. India is a country where in the year 2014 this was actually implemented. So I'll be talking about CSR in terms of the corporate social responsibility and how relevant is this going to be as far as rural India is concerned. Once again, not from rural India in terms of a market for us, but in terms of rural development, which will in future become a market for you in case we are able to empower the rural segment. So I'll first talk about the CSR funnel that we have in the country. I'm sure all of, most of the corporates and some of the corporates are actually falling under the ambit of CSR, which is for organizations who have a turnover of more than 1,000 crore, or net worth of having more than 500 crores, or an annual net profit of more than 5 crores. So all such organizations who fall under this structure will have to spend 2% of their profit on corporate social responsibility. And this law has come into force, and it is being very strictly enforced by Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Government of India. And I'll be talking about, how we can use CSR as a platform, as a tool to be able to reach out to rural India and create a market for you in the future. And this is relevant for the corporates, for the business heads. And I'll be talking about various theories in terms of how we can integrate CSR into the business model, into the business strategy from a long-term sustainability perspective. Very quickly, we have a Companies Act that all corporates will have to follow. We have a Section 135, and under Section 135, we have a Schedule 7 that will that lists out what can be done under CSR and what cannot be done. So we have a positive list. As of now, we don't have a negative list, but we have a positive list. So from that perspective, there is a Schedule 7 clause on rural development, and where corporates can actually spend money using various platforms and strategies that they have to develop the rural part of the country, which is the market in your case. So here we have the provisions available. Here we have the interest of the corporates. Here we have a CSR strategy in place by the corporates, and one just needs to ride on it and reach to the desired destination. Each and every organization, I'm talking about Emami in my case, we have a CSR committee, a CSR policy, a CSR framework, a CSR strategy, and all organizations have to follow this under law, and under that, the CSR has now come to the boardroom, which means that the board members of the organization decide on what projects to do and what not to do. If rural India is important, the board understands that, and they'll be spending more money and allocate more resources and funds to rural India. And this is going to be the future in terms of bringing CSR into the boardroom, and strategic decisions about the country's growth in terms of development can take place from the boardroom. Just a quick snapshot on the current scenario as far as CSR is concerned in India. All of you, I'm sure you love the word profit, right? And it's a word which is very dear to our heart. And we as business, we consider this as the main purpose why we exist. Here we have a different thought process, and there are some different theories I'll be talking about, and how we at Emami, we are trying to embark upon a journey. I'll be talking today about the journey of Emami, not about the destination, because we haven't reached the destination as yet. But here we'll talk about the journey of Emami in terms of how we are trying to embark upon a journey which is different, which is going beyond profit. I know oxygen is required for everyone to breathe, right? Without oxygen, we can't breathe. Oxygen is required for us to have a life. But does that mean that the purpose of our life should be to breathe oxygen? Same for business. This is what we believe in. The profit is anyway required for business to survive, but does that mean that profit needs to be the sole motive why business exists? And this is how we'll be talking about a theory, which is the 333 theory, which is the triple bottom line theory here, that most of the business across the world, and I'll be talking about some global benchmarks that we are trying to follow. We are making an attempt to kind of look into the best world practices in terms of sustainability, business sustainability, environmental sustainability, so on and so forth. So the single bottom line is what we love talking about, is the bottom line of profit. The world is fast changing into taking into account the second P, which is the people. And now in the future, there will be a triple bottom line, which is going to be the planet, which is the 3P theory, which is the triple bottom line theory. So right now, we in the country, we are in India. In terms of the monetary value, out of around 20,000 crore that can be spent under CSR in terms of the corporates, around 10,000 crore is being spent annually on CSR by the corporates. And out of that, and this is as per the report of the India CSR Outlook Report 2019, just 14% of the CSR money is being spent on rural development, which means that there's a lot of scope for corporates to spend this money in rural India. That means there's a lot of scope for reaching out to the rural population. There's a lot of scope to use CSR as a vehicle or a tool or a bridge to be able to go create a market for yourself and look into the 3 Ps, which is the profit, people, and planet from a sustainability perspective. Once again, I like to talk about the 1970s, the gentleman, Mr. Milton Friedman, who mentioned the fact that the only corporate social responsibility a company has to do is to maximize its profit. And he was very clear that, look, here we have a shareholder who's invested, and our job as officials of the business is to bring him the ROI. Doing charity, doing social work, doing CSR is not the responsibility of any business. Let the shareholder take his money and decide what to do with that money. That was one theory that came in 1970. The world is changing fast. We have another gentleman, Mr. John Elkington, who spoke about the triple bottom line theory as a sustainability theory for the future in terms of the importance of organizations to focus on profit, planet, and the people.